Mr. President, thank you for having me. I would note for the record a bit of a failure in your leadership because when Senator Hughes was introduced, the drum band played him on. When I was introduced, I got bupkis when I got up here. Come on, guys. Give me a little something. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And we're cheering on those. The new look Sixers is here. PG-13 is in town. Mr. President, thank you for your leadership. And you have had tests in your leadership, not just the daily tests of a university president, but a whole lot thrown at you. And we've been with you every step of the way, and you've been an outstanding leader for this university. We're proud to have your back. Thank you. The president knows he's only as good as the team around him, so let me give a shout out to the folks who represent that team around him, the great women and men of AFSCME and APSCUF who are here doing great work at Cheyney University every single day. We're grateful for the work you do and the way in which you stand up and make sure folks like Veronica get the best quality education, one of the finest institutions in America. As you know from Professor Jordan Harris, the new history professor here at Cheyney University, I assume you've figured out a way to sign that up. The chairman gave us an important history lesson, of course noting that Cheyney is the first HBCU in this nation. And it holds a special place in the history of this Commonwealth and in the history of this country. The mark its graduates have left have been felt far and wide, not just here in suburban Philly or in the city or in the Commonwealth, but indeed all across this country. Cheyney's excellence has paved the way for generational efforts that have created meaningful change. For nearly 2 centuries, HBCUs like Cheyney have helped ensure that the doors of opportunity are open to more people, that quality education is more accessible, especially for Black Pennsylvanians, especially for folks who have historically been denied the opportunity to pursue a college degree. And in the face of hard times, Cheyney has remained resilient, continuing to make progress, while also remaining true to their legacy, true to who they are, as one of only 2 HBCUs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A legacy that really matters, and a legacy that we value here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in the governor's office, in the legislature, and in both parties here in Pennsylvania. And so when our administration heard that Cheyney's accreditation status was abruptly placed on probation last year, I want you to know we all went to work and we pushed back hard. And I personally lobbied from the Secretary of Education to others to make sure they re-looked at the decision that they made, the wrong decision that they made. And I want to give special thanks to this entire group up here, but especially to Chairman Hughes, who challenged all of us, who pushed all of us on this, and who ultimately was our partner in making sure that we reaffirmed Cheyney's accreditation going forward. And so, with that behind us, today we get to stand up together and talk about the future of education in Pennsylvania and the future of a great quality education here at Cheyney University for next generation of leaders like Veronica. Look, I firmly believe that every Pennsylvanian, no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love, or who you pray to, you should have the freedom to chart your own course and the opportunity to succeed. And we recognize there's many paths to success after a great K-12 education. Some of our young people will go in the military. Some of them will go straight into the workforce. Some will enter a union apprenticeship program under the leadership of people like Ryan Boyer, the head of the Philadelphia Building Trades. And hear me on this. We need to respect all paths to opportunity and success. All paths to opportunity and success. And for those who choose to pursue opportunity in our college classrooms, well, we're making sure we are there for you. After 30 years of disinvesting from higher education, and because of that, playing a game of subtraction in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, subtracting resources, subtracting services, subtracting access. Well, as a result of that game of subtraction over 3 decades, enrollment declined and the cost of attending our colleges and universities has skyrocketed. But this group understood instinctively that we needed to do better in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So my first budget address about 1.5 years ago, I stood before a bipartisan group of lawmakers in the General Assembly and said to them and the good people of Pennsylvania that we need to do something about this. We can no longer play that game of subtraction. Let's reimagine higher education together. How about we stop playing subtraction games and start playing games of addition in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? And so I directed our great Secretary of Education, Dr. Khalid Mumin, who stands tall behind us here today, and his amazing team at the Pennsylvania Department of Education to bring together higher education leaders, including your president, from all across Pennsylvania, to have that meaningful conversation, to change that dynamic that's existed here for decades. He put his outstanding deputy, Secretary Kate Shaw, on the job, and under her leadership, the Department of Education listened to stakeholders, to students, to higher ed leaders, legislators, labor leaders, and so many more who have a stake in the success of a place like Cheyney University. And with that feedback, we put forth a blueprint on how we could reimagine higher education, that we would reinvest in our colleges and universities. We would make college education more affordable, and hear me on this, more accessible to all Pennsylvanians, and that we would increase coordination between our colleges and university. Thanks to the leadership of Chairman Harris in the House and Chairman Hughes in the Senate, and a bipartisan coalition that includes your legislators, Senator Kane, Representative Williams, Representative Isaacson, and O'Mara. They came together, and folks put their best ideas on the table. And you know what we did? We did something that too many folks in politics don't do today. We listened to one another, and we compromised, and we found a path forward to success for higher education in Pennsylvania. And that, right there, what I'm about to sign, is the result. A budget that makes the first significant investment and reform in higher education in more than 30 years in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Let me tell you what we're doing. First, we're creating a state board of higher education to coordinate higher ed in Pennsylvania, collect real data about what's working and what's not, so the dollars can specifically follow what's working for our young people. We want to make sure our colleges and universities are all rowing in the same direction. This board is going to find real solutions to the problems in higher education and focus on tying the work that is happening in classrooms here at Cheyney to the jobs we need all across Pennsylvania when folks graduate from this university. It's going to ensure that all of our colleges and universities serve now as economic drivers for progress in our communities all across Pennsylvania and give students more tangible opportunities for success when they graduate a great institution like Cheyney. And number 2, we are increasing our investment in PASHE schools, including Cheyney University, and including in that increasing funds for our community colleges, which are so critically vital in communities all across Pennsylvania. The 6% increase is one thing, but this budget, as you heard from Chairman Harris before, this is a statement of our values, of what we respect, of reflecting what we believe in. And we believe in high quality, affordable education for all in Pennsylvania, and we especially believe in our 2 HBCUs. This investment is critical so that we can preserve the pathway to opportunity all across Pennsylvania. And again, it's especially critical to our HBCUs. I have said many times, from that private meeting I had with Ryan Boyer and Chairman Hughes to many times all across this Commonwealth, whether at an HBCU or not, that I'm committed to supporting in and investing in our HBCUs in a meaningful way as we reimagine higher education in Pennsylvania. Hear me on this. As we do this reimagination of higher ed, it's not just nice to invest in HBCUs. It is absolutely critical that we do that if we want to make sure we set up our higher ed system and its students for success. I have visited your friendly rival. In fact, you all got me in trouble when I was at Lincoln a few months ago because I made the mistake of uttering the two words that they did not want to hear on game day. I said Cheyney University about 4 hours before y'all had a basketball game that night, and they kind of lit me up with some booze over at Lincoln. But I know it is a friendly rival, and I know that we all want to support and lift up both HBCUs in Pennsylvania. But listen, our relationship with Cheyney is very special and very particular. In addition to all the additional funding in the budget that's going to help lift up our colleges and universities, we have earmarked specifically $2.5 million for 2 scholarship funds specifically here at Cheyney for Cheyney students and Cheyney alum who want to continue who choose to continue their studies at a graduate program here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's money specifically earmarked to help our Cheyney students get further ahead and to be able to realize their dreams. That is, of course, on top of the tens of millions of dollars in additional scholarships that we are making available to college students across Pennsylvania to make college more affordable. The first time we're making those types of investments in years, and I know that Representative O'Mara and the good folks over at FIA will make sure that those dollars go far. And it's going to help us fill the positions that we need filled in order to benefit all Pennsylvanians. We're investing state dollars in that budget for nursing apprenticeships for the first time ever in Pennsylvania. And we saw how many people last year applied when we made student teacher stipends available for the first time ever. 4,000 of our fellow Pennsylvanians who want to go in the classroom and change lives, they applied for these student teacher stipends in just the first few hours that the website was open. We knew immediately we had to go and double down on that investment, and this budget does exactly that. And we're making sure that the doors of opportunity are open to anyone who wants to walk through, and my administration will continue to make that commitment to institutions like Cheyney University who have their doors open up to all Pennsylvanians. Listen, here in Pennsylvania, we have shown that we can come together and get big things done, get stuff done, the 3 letters that we live by in our administration, GSD. It should be lost on no one that we are the only state in the entire nation with a divided legislature. Think about that for a minute. In these hyper-polarized times, one chamber, the Senate, is led by Republicans, and the other chamber, the House, is led by Democrats. And notwithstanding how polarized these times are, notwithstanding that we are the only state in the nation with a divided legislature, we have shown an ability to come together, to tackle big problems, to meet the moment, and to get big things done. We've learned how to give a little bit in order to get a little bit. And it's important that when we move the ball down the field, when we put some points on the board, that we come together, Republican and Democrat alike, and we celebrate that success. Because while I realize the word compromise can be a dirty word in some areas of our politics today, compromise is how you make progress for the good people of Pennsylvania. Compromise is how we get stuff done and how we tackle the big problems that we face today. I want you to know this is a big challenge, higher ed, that we are tackling. And as every speaker told you here today, this is a beginning. We got a lot more work to do, and I'm committed to that work going forward. But understand, this isn't the only time that we've come together to solve a major challenge. Just last year, we were able to cut costs for seniors. For the first time in 20 years, we passed the largest targeted tax cut for seniors in nearly 2 decades. We passed the largest targeted tax cut for families with kids in childcare ever in Pennsylvania. We came together, Democrat and Republican alike, to put more money back in people's pockets as costs were rising. When the Commonwealth Court said that our K-12 system of education was not just broken, but was unconstitutional fundamentally for 2 reasons. Number 1, we weren't investing enough, and number 2, we weren't driving those dollars out to the school districts that need it most. Republican and Democrat came together. We had tough conversations, honest conversations, and the result of that is we invested a new $1.1 billion in public education in Pennsylvania. That number is unprecedented. And we not only made sure to invest in the bottom line of these school districts, every single kid going to a Pennsylvania school is getting universal free breakfast now. We listened to kids when they said to us that they were struggling with their mental health issues. And now we've invested $200 million just so we can hire more mental health counselors in our schools for our kids. When Chairman Hughes and others came and said, we got too many crumbling schools, not just in Philly, but in Reading and in Allentown and communities all across Pennsylvania, we created a fund for the first time ever with about $500 million in it to fix our crumbling schools. Democrats and Republicans solving problems. When Pennsylvania had the unfortunate distinction of being one of only 2 states in the entire nation that didn't fund indigent defense, didn't fund public defenders at the state level, you know what we did? We came together, Democrats and Republicans and alike, and invested in indigent defense. And by the way, at the same time, passed some of the most sweeping criminal justice reform bills in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We did that together. We have shown that we can tackle big things here in Pennsylvania. We have shown that notwithstanding the noise that exists in our politics today, we can find ways to come together and get stuff done. This is critically important for the good people of Pennsylvania, and I think this is a model for how government is supposed to work. And so I want to close by saying a special thank you to all these lawmakers who are here today, who represent many other lawmakers who did this hard work of coming together, of having tough and honest conversations, of being willing to join us in challenging the status quo and making sure we delivered meaningful results for folks who most oftentimes have been left out of the conversation. I'm grateful to be back here at Cheyney University. This is a place where we can learn a whole lot about making sure that all Pennsylvanians are heard from, all Pennsylvanians are listened to, and that we deliver for all of our fellow Pennsylvanians. Thank you all very, very much. Let me go sign this together.
Chairman here. I'm going to need to be able to see your arm, so I apologize. Down right on the edge. Okay. Thank you so much.
So Marin,
Right there.
get the drum roll. I know, how about that? Thank you, guys.
Down, please.
Down, please. Still down.
Y'all ready? Great work. Great work. Mr. Chairman, for you. Yep. Great work. Thank you. Yep. Thank you very, very much. Mr. President, this is for you. You can cash this check here. All right. Take that to the bank. All right. Thank you so much. Here you go. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for yours.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Governor.
Thank you. All right, Veronica, you want to answer these questions? All right. We'll take some questions from the media here.
Expect Kamala Harris to ask you to run.
I'm happy to answer your question. Let me see if we got anything on Cheyney, higher ed, or the budget. Really wish we had something about Cheyney or higher ed or the budget. Yeah.
More about what you want the rest of the country to learn from what's going on in Pennsylvania.
Look, I think, again, we're the only state in the nation with a divided legislature. And when you show up in a negotiation with Republicans and Democrats, they got strong feelings on things. That shouldn't surprise anybody. What we have learned to be able to do here is to not focus on the differences the parties might have, but the areas of commonality, the areas where we can row in the same direction. And I couldn't be more grateful to the leaders who are here, to Leader Bradford in the House, who was the primary negotiator in the House on the budget, together with Chairman Harris, and to Leader Pittman in the Senate. We're grateful that they were able to find ways to move forward. And I think we could be a model for the rest of the nation, where we can have our honest differences, where we can believe different things, we can be registered in different parties, we can vote for different candidates, but we can all come together and negotiate, recognizing we got a job to do for the good people of Pennsylvania.
Governor, do you expect Kamala Harris to ask you to run with her, considering all your success here, sir?
I think that's a question for the Vice President.
Governor Shapiro, are you planning on meeting with Vice President Harris this weekend?
I think any process questions like that should go directly to the Harris campaign.
You said the last time you spoke to Vice President Harris was last Sunday.
Yeah.
Is that still true?
It is.
If you're not going to the Hamptons this weekend, what are you doing instead?
Y'all think I'm going to tell you what I'm doing? Come on, go ahead.
In Philadelphia on Tuesday by chance?
I hope to be.
Governor, I want to ask you about President Trump's comments. We're here at a very historically important HBCU, and the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris attended, of course, an HBCU Howard too.
That's right.
As we stand here, what do you make of President Trump's attacks on her identity? He said, in his words, she only recently, quote, became black.
Yeah, I think it's offensive. And it is more of the same from Donald Trump. He attacks other people based on what they look like or who they pray to, who they love, the way they were raised. He tries to divide Americans because, quite frankly, he struggles with uplifting all Americans. I think it shows a profound weakness in a leader when they can't sell themselves, but instead they got to attack other people. And attacking the identity of the vice president is shameful. And attacking the identity of the vice president doesn't at all reflect negatively on Vice President Harris, but shows a real insecurity about Donald Trump. Listen, this guy is nervous as hell to face Kamala Harris. He's already trying to back out of the debate. Did you notice that? Part of that is because he knows she's going to whoop him in the debate. She is a skilled prosecutor, a great communicator. But there's another reason why he doesn't really want to debate her and doesn't really want to have a conversation about the issues. And that is because he can't defend his record. He has a record of failure when he was president. I want you to think about this. When he was president, we had fewer jobs in Pennsylvania, we had less freedom, and a whole lot more chaos when Donald Trump was in charge. And listen, Kamala Harris, what she proposes to do for this nation is uplifting. It is empowering, and it's going to help make sure we move all Pennsylvanians forward, from our HBCUs to our skyscraped center cities to our farmlands. And I must tell you that I've been traveling all around this Commonwealth, as you know, doing my job as governor and also making sure that I tell people about the Kamala Harris that I know and that I've known for the last 20 years. Folks are excited wherever I go, rural communities, suburban, urban communities. They're fired up, they're ready to go, and I think Donald Trump's attacks speak volumes about the kind of coward that he is, about his own failings, and say nothing about the great qualifications of the vice president.
Governor, what do you think the vice president is looking for in a running mate?
I think it's a good question for her. I think it is a deeply, deeply personal decision, one that she understands because she went through it 4 years ago when then candidate Biden, our nominee Biden, chose her. She is obviously uniquely aware of the importance of picking someone who she can run with and win with and, of course, govern with. And I know she will make this decision, as she makes every decision, in the best interest of the American people.
What do you think you bring to the ticket, Governor? If she,
I think that's a question
the
for her.
process, I understand, but what do you think you
I'm
bring?
not going to engage in those kind of hypotheticals. That's a conversation for her, a question for her.
The Philadelphia Inquirer is writing about a 1993 college article you wrote where you expressed skepticism about a two-state solution. I understand you do support a two-state solution now. Can you kind of just talk about that evolution?
Something I wrote when I was 20? Is that what you're talking about? I was 20. Look, I have said for years, long before October 7th, that I favor a two-state solution. Israelis and Palestinians living peacefully side by side, being able to determine their own futures and their own destinies, being able to work as they want and worship as they want, and understand the power of living peacefully side by side and how that will lift up both parties in this, or both sides of this conversation. This is obviously a very challenging situation and has been for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. It is my hope that we can see a day where peace will reign in the Middle East, where there will be a two-state solution, where all leaders involved in the conversations will respect the other side and show a willingness to make the hard choices to find peace. And I hope that the U.S. government will always be a partner in peace and trying to find a path forward in the Middle East.
Governor, do you think the Israelis...
I think she had a question. Go ahead.
Do you think the Israelis' assassination of two leaders this week, one in Iran, one in Beirut, were proper?
I think that's a question for the national security team, who has a lot more information on the circumstances surrounding that.
Do you think?
You need me to hook you up with an interview with somebody else here, Cole? You keep asking me questions that aren't for me.
Who's here, Governor?
Go ahead.
Do you think if Vice President Harris picked anyone from Pennsylvania to be her running mate, that would help them win the state?
You're like, I'm not doing the hypothetical game. The Vice President has a deeply personal decision to make. She will make the right decision for her and for the country.
Governor, would you accept the job?
Got somebody.
Okay.
Will you be attending Harris's rally on Tuesday?
I hope to be, yeah.
Governor, would you accept the job if Vice President
I'm
Harris
not going to
offered it
engage
you?
in these hypotheticals. The Vice President's going to make the decision she wants to make.
Governor, I know it feels like ancient history now, but after the debate between President Joe Biden and former President Trump, voters still have questions about the president's mental fitness. When you've talked to him and seen him recently, did you have any concerns that he slipped at all?
Not at all. And I've been in regular contact with the president. I will tell you that after the tragedy in Butler, the assassination attempt of the former president, bullets that left Corey Comparator dead and two other of our fellow Pennsylvanians injured and changed the lives of so many families, sadly, for so long. It was President Biden who spoke to me that evening. I believe it was multiple times that evening. He was on top of that, on top of so many other things. I'm grateful for the president's partnership. I was grateful that he reached out to me just moments after he decided to end his campaign. And I think his ability to do the job is unquestioned, certainly in my mind. And his ability to carry us forward as a nation and do big things over his remaining months in office, I think is something that should offer comfort to the American people. Take a look at what he accomplished that was announced just yesterday, freeing 3 hostages from Russian prisons.
That's right.
That took time to put that together. That took a determined president of the United States who has strong alliances around the world to be able to pull that together. And these 3 Americans, the American people, are better off because of his leadership. I'm grateful for the investments that the president continues to send our way in Pennsylvania. The I-83 South Bridge in Harrisburg, 200,000 cars and trucks go over it every day. It's been years of people talking about fixing it. President Biden figured out a way to get us the resources to do that. We are poised to be the center of the clean energy universe for decades to come in Pennsylvania because President Biden saw to it to study the issue and make sure that we here in Pennsylvania would be home to not one, but the only state with 2 regional hydrogen hubs in our nation. So many good things are happening here in Pennsylvania because of the president's willingness and ability to do this job to support our fellow Pennsylvanians.
Last question.
Governor, J.D. Vance just said this about you, and these are his words, quote, he compared you to a really bad impression of Barack Obama. What is your response to that?
Is that what he said? That's great. I love how we get the real-time quotes here. I mean, look, I don't know. Barack Obama was probably our most gifted orator of my time, so it's kind of a weird insult, I guess. But look, I'll say this about J.D. Vance. It is real hard being honest with the American people when you're not being honest with yourself. J.D. Vance is a total phony baloney. He is the most inorganic candidate I think I have ever seen on the national stage. He doesn't know what he believes. And that is why it is impossible for him to articulate a coherent message to the American people, because he doesn't believe it. This guy is not exactly off to a good start. And it is clear that Donald Trump really has buyer's remorse with his pick. So if he wants to sling insults in my direction, which I'm not even sure is an insult, let him do it. That's fine. Bring it on. I'll be ready for whatever the hell J.D. Vance throws my direction. Thanks, everybody.